So in the series of translucent canes, I will show you today how to make some very common floating canes, the grid and the spiral. Normally, these are more commonly made with white, but I will be using gold, and that's a mix one-on-one gold and translucent, and then I will be using some 18 karat gold. So what you do, you run your translucent on the thickest setting, and then you keep a stack in it until you're able to get four fairly thick, it's about four stacks of the thickest setting to get four rectangular sticks. And make sure that you trim them nicely and they are fairly equal in size. I like to cut them first before the next step, but you can just do first the next step and then cut them. So measure very well to make sure that they are equal in size. And then once you have cut them, and again, you can do first the next step and then cut them. Run the mix of gold and translucent on the thinnest setting. I'm going to get this in close up so you can see better. And then cover one side, put the translucent sticks on the thinnest setting sheet of gold and translucent mix. Trim really good to make sure that you don't have any kind of overhanging, and then cut again. Sorry, I was trying to get the camera better into view. And cut this way, you'll have your sticks covered on one side with a thin sheet of that gold. Turn them on the side and put them together again. And then place them again on the sheet of gold and cover them on one more side. You only cover two sides because when you put them together, the other sides will be covered by the ones that are already covered. You don't want to cover them on all sides because the lines will get way too thick if you do that. Now reduce them until you can cut them in two and stack. So until you get a good two-way, then a stack of two layers, then reduce them again until you get four. And that way you'll have a square of four little squares, a grid. But make sure that when you stack them, you take into consideration which side is covered by that gold sheet. So they are all on the same direction. Now put that aside. See how they look? Very, very pretty. Then put that aside. That is the end of the cane. So and let's do our spiral cane. Both translucent and the 18 karat gold are on thinnest setting. I will stack them, but I will make the gold just 1 millimeter shorter than the translucent, so that when I start rolling it, it will not be, see, it's just a little bit, and then I cut in a diagonal, so when I start rolling it, it will not be gold on gold. The spiral will look nice and neat. And then form your spiral like a jelly roll, like a regular jelly roll. Make sure that, because that way you'll also have the air pockets rolling out. If you roll it against the tile, make sure that you roll the whatever air pockets might still be left out. Check it, and then we put our two canes to the side. We are pretty much done with them. I'm focusing the camera in a minute. There we go. So this is how it's supposed to look like. I know the translucent canes are not very easily seeable, but why I am doing this with gold is to show you that you can get some really nice mica shift effects. Of course, you can do it with white, and as I said, it's more common done with white, but that's the norm. But always think outside the bun, do something else. I'm going to make a bracelet using Tiny Pandora's cuff, and I'm absolutely thrilled with them. I will do a video just with them. I got some black, and as you notice, it's much shorter than what I need, and that is because I will be going with it through the pasta machine. So first I will be rolling it and thin it and then go through the pasta machine. So after trimming it, I am covering it with some copper foil. Make sure that I have covered everything on that piece of black. Then I put that to the side, and now I'm going to start slicing my grid cane and my spiral cane, and will form on the paper wax, on the wax paper, I will form a sheet of the grid cane, like the same way as you would do veneer on clay, only this time I am doing it on the wax paper. And then I will place some spiral slices on top of the grid, and that's why I made them the spiral a different shade of gold. Be careful when you place those slices to have always the sides covered in the gold sheet facing the same way. See, I have arranged them to be on the bottom right corner. And then I am placing the spirals. It's just for a little bit of contrast. At the end I will show you the difference between the same color and this, and also the difference because you can control the size of this grid, and it gives different effects, the same as rolling in different directions. That metal foil gives you different effects. So what I am doing now, I am creating a sheet that will cover entirely that black with the copper foil. And after I am placing this, now careful about one thing. Always place the side that has the spirals on the metal foil. Because if you place the slices on the outside, whenever you sand, you are going to sand them off. This thing is going to become very, very thin, so it's going to be just microns, then, and your spirals will be sanded off. So this is how it's supposed to look like. And then I will be placing some wax paper on top and will be flattening it. And you can use a brayer, you can use your roller. Don't go with it through the pasta machine because you don't want too much distortion. I'll show you at the end a bracelet with more distortion than this. Then very gently and carefully remove your veneer from the wax paper and place it on the black background. Again, careful about where you place the spiral slices, facing that background, not facing upwards. When you place it, make sure that you don't have air pockets in. And then you start flattening and evening it out. What I am going to do, I'm going to use the roller to go on the width, and then I will pass it through the pasta machine all the way until I get to the thinnest setting, but slowly so I don't get a lot of distortion. Now see, it is pretty much close to what I need, just a few more rolls of the roller. Make sure you do that on the face and on the back. and then remove it from the wax paper and get it through the pasta machine. It should already be close to the thinnest setting, but you need to reach in the end the thinnest setting so that translucent can get completely, almost completely transparent. This is how it should look at the end, and see what a nice contrast that lighter gold makes on the grid. And also the grid will have, once it's baked, will have from certain angles you won't be able to see it, but from certain angles you will. Now comes the fun part, and I will show you. As I said, I'm going to make a separate video about this, but I'm going to show you how easy it is with this cuff to get perfect edges. Instead of fussing and all that, look at this. So I'm placing some scrap clay that I will be covering with that black. And then, after trimming the biggest excess, you just start folding the edges using your roller. And as you are folding and you're getting closer and closer with the roller to the edge, the clay will actually get cut. So you won't have to do any kind of trimming. Just keep pressing with your fingers and see how you can remove all the excess clay just by pressing on the edges. Look at that. It's a miracle. And now you can do a little bit of bevel. And again, whatever gets over that metal edge will fall off by itself. So if you keep your roller at a fixed angle, you will get absolutely gorgeous beveling of your cuff. Look at that. You don't have to worry about nice edges, about beveling, about anything, trimming or anything. It just trims itself by itself and leaves perfectly straight, beautifully leveled edges. Now I'm going to place the black on top of the scrap clay, and I will do pretty much the same thing. Make sure when you place the black that you don't trap air pockets, because of course you can poke them out, but you'd rather not have to do that. And see, I am trimming the biggest excess, and then I'm doing again the same thing. I'm folding over the edge, and this time I am actually going to trim a little bit using my X-Acto knife, but again, use your roller, and the roller will completely separate the excess clay from the rest. I used the X-Acto knife because I have that metal foil there, and sometimes the metal foil can rip instead of cutting, can rip, and I didn't want to get any kind of rips. So that's why I use the X-Acto knife to trim first, but then I will be using the same technique, you know, just rolling the roller over it. And look at those edges. I am so thrilled. That's so much time saved. It's amazing. And I'm going to put some copper rings there, embed them in the clay, so I can place a chain with the magnet clasp. Make sure that you place the rings equally, symmetrically. And I am using the blade so I wouldn't leave any fingerprints or thumbprints. And then grab the X-Acto knife and cut the holes. It's much easier to cut them now than to have to drill them. These are heavy gauge jump rings. You can find at Hobby Lobby. Normally they are $2.99, but then they are jewelry shop. When they are on sale, you get them for $1.50 for 60 pieces in a bag. Now look how easy it pops off. You just insert your knife. I should have done that in the kitchen with the regular knife because the X-Acto is a little bit more flexible, but with a kitchen knife you pop it right off. And look how easy it comes off right away. And then I will be making a backing with the spirals. Because I have spirals, I have that makings texture, and I will be using that. I'm using the exact same gold and translucent mix. I've put some liquid clay, of course, and watch again the magic of the way it's shaped. Again, you don't have to worry about nice edges. I mean, it is so awesome. Just make sure that you've stuck it well and you don't have air pockets. Trim the biggest excess clay, and then do the exact same trick with the roller, because those edges on the inside, they are just a pinch sharp, and if you don't use the X-Acto or if you don't sand them, they will cut exactly perfectly the backing, and then you will have beautiful flawless edges even on the backing of your bracelet. And you can smooth it out with your finger a little bit. And I will be using a little bit of mica powder, and I am placing first that graphite because that's what I want to be on top. And if you're placing one, then the other one won't stick. So I'm going first to rub the raised parts with my finger, and then use the paintbrush to apply that super bronze. And that way it will look like a piece of metal that used to be plated gold, but it wore out, and on the raised parts you don't see gold anymore, you only see silverish. And then of course I will be placing jump rings, those heavy jump rings, on the back as well. First cut the hole so you can see where to place your jump rings. And you can do this before applying the mica powder, it's up to you. And then I cannot show you on the camera there because of the way the bracelet is, but place the jump ring right on top of the hole. And then you'll have the clay squeeze a little bit, so you'll have to cut again the hole. On the other one I'll try and make it so you can see it better. Because you can do the cutting on this side too, but that way you can see if your ring is well placed. And I'm good to go to bake again. Now I'm not going to finish them because I want to finish the varnishing properly. I have my own method of varnishing repeatedly and sanding with a very high grit, but you can see how it looks and how that grid floating cane from certain angles almost disappears, and then it reappears as you move the bracelet in a different angle because of the mica shift effect. And this is another bracelet that I made with the spirals in the same color with more distortion, and I have flakes of heat patina metal foil underneath. And again, this one needs to be well varnished, and I'll show you what I mean with that specific technique of varnish, how I make things look. It may take up to 1 day because I have to wait for the layers of varnish to dry perfectly before sanding them in a specific way. But it takes me about 3 or 4 layers of varnish to achieve that mirror-like varnish that I like to use. And people think it's resin, but no, it's not resin, it's a varnish. And you can see how the metal foil underneath, if you stretch it on different directions, it will look differently. On one bracelet it's stretched longitudinal, on the other one is the sides. And this is the varnish that I was talking about. That's mirror-like. And that's why I cannot finish the bracelets right now, because I want to varnish them like this. So I hope you enjoyed this, and you will try to make these 2 floating canes. So happy claying!